when I first started talking to you guys, I think this is going back almost 2 years ago now. It was a brownfield story, and then now you guys switching to more exploration. And I think we had this discussion off cameras just before we started about that philosophy. To me, that's kind of it's kind of deja vu kind of story, because when you got 140 kilometers of strike that you think is mineralized, and you want to, it's like a child in a lolly shop, right? Trying to figure out, well, where do I start. Um, do you think, like, I mean, you mentioned there's a lot of other projects, and I've seen in your presentation and things like that. How do you guys, I mean, obviously that length of time waiting for results and things like this, taking a toll on the share price and things like that. But how do you stay focused and say, look, let's hold back, where are the better spots, and this is where we need to put funds in, because preservation of fund is the whole game, is part of a major part of the game, right?
Yeah.
So how do you guys sit back and, likes of Crispin, going to sit there and go, I think we should do this and not that kind of conversations? How do you do that?
Yeah, I might just touch on that and then hand over to Crispin as well. But, we've gone through an interesting sort of couple of years with the company, and there's been a brownfields project there for some time. But we came to the realisation about nearly 3 years ago now that to make the project work, we needed a substantial discovery and something much larger than what we had in the existing resource base. And that was most likely to be made, the discovery would most likely be made outside of the little 15 kilometres of corridor that we had the resources on. So to target that effectively and to allow us to focus on what we think should be the best area. So we've got a lolly shop, as you mentioned, sort of a lolly shop, to focus on what are the right lollies, or which is the right box to find the best lollies in. You need to get the base data sets. So we set about over 3 years ago now to start gathering the base data sets to be able to allow us to target as effectively as possible. So that was flying magnetics, big magnetic data sets, starting to gather some of the ground sort of geochemistry, so some geochemical programs that we did, sort of till sampling and base of till sampling and all this sort of stuff. Once that was done, and it gave us the data, Crispin and the team were then able to go and start more effectively targeting to take that 120 kilometres of strike and zoom in on the areas that we think look most prospective. So they've done that, and now they're at the point of going in and in those areas that we think are the most effective, so the best lolly box to find the lollies in, they're now at that point. They've identified the lolly boxes, if you like, and the point now is doing the programs to try and identify where the lollies are. Maybe hand over to Crispin to sort of how they've gone about that and how we came about maybe getting into malachite as a priority area, and the sort of work that we do to go from 120 kilometres down to sort of around 15 kilometres of strike. Once you're in the 15 kilometres of strike, how do we then find the lollies in there?
Yes, and as Justin had mentioned, it's really generating those foundational data sets that allow us to rank and prioritize the targets throughout the belt. Justin also mentioned that, up 95% of the historic expenditures were within the resource corridor. And, that's a function of the junior exploration industry as well, where companies would raise a small amount of money, $1 million, need to generate numbers for the market to be favorable, do some diamond drilling in close to the known resources, and raise another $1 million and kind of rinse and repeat, run out of money, and then the next company comes in. And this is a cycle that went through the belt for a long time. There's a lot of really great geologists that worked in the belt, but just didn't have the support from their shareholders to do the regional exploration. I think we're in a very lucky place right now that we have strong interest from our shareholders to invest the money in a greenfields exploration program to make that big discovery. Outside of the resource corridor, there's very limited work done on the Cape Ray Shear Zone. Most of it is undercover. Over 95% of the ground is covered with glacial till, and that belt has seen very little exploration at all. Geological mapping, prospecting, geochemistry, geophysics. It's basically devoid of all exploration methods. So we did the high resolution geophysics in 2021. And what we were looking for was the structural controls on the mineralization. So from when we received the high resolution geophysics, we spent a lot of time comparing the known mineralization to the rest of the data set and identifying the geometries of the structures that hosted gold mineralization. Malachite really drew our attention because it's on the largest bend in the Cape Ray Shear Zone, right across the island of Newfoundland. And of course, bends in large structures are interesting places to look. When we focused in detail, we saw a lot of second and third order structures that were coming off the main Cape Ray Shear Zone that were completely underexplored, completely non-explored. So that brings us to our malachite story last year. The malachite bend in the shear zone is approximately 15 kilometers in strike length. That's seen no work. So there wasn't a single gold sample that existed prior to last year in malachite. It was solely a conceptual target that was a structurally favorable area on a gold-bearing regional structure. Within 2 days of going to malachite, on the second day, we went in there last summer. We found quartz boulders with 5 grams of gold in it right on surface in a brook within the second day of going there. So it's really exciting. Those are some milestones. Identify the structures with the geophysics. Use the geochemistry to answer the question, is there gold associated with these structures? And then to go in and do the groundwork, mapping, prospecting, geological mapping, that ultimately leads to a diamond drill program. And we had a very small diamond drill program last fall. And, the main scope of that was to identify, is there major fluid systems moving through these structures? So the alteration, the geochemistry, the pathfinder geochemistry, and of course, gold in bedrock was a major milestone that we made with a very limited program last year. So now the next stages for 2023 is to move into the malachite area as well as areas that are proximal. We found a 12-kilometer long trend with high-grade gold samples on surface that there's virtually no drilling in. So we need to generate the high-quality diamond drill targets, and we're going to do that through all the methods that I mentioned before, as well as this hybridized method. I think the Aussies have really perfected exploring undercover, and it's a really strong skill set that has been born in Australia with the air core drilling, RC drilling, and then followed up with diamond drilling. Is something that Canada has not implemented. So Matador has been trying to get down through the cover and get a good sample of fresh rock to study the pathfinder geochemistry and generate diamond drill targets. It has been challenging just because of the difference in the superficial geology of Canada versus Australia. We don't have the regolith. We have transported cover, and it's full of boulders. So we're working through that. However, shortly we will be testing an RC drill rig on the program, and I think that'll really bring the productivity of drilling through the cover, testing the fresh rock on a large scale to really open up this belt that's 120 kilometers of strike length, no drilling, and 97% undercover. The 3 deposits that we do have were discovered through prospecting, so these things came to surface. So I think the chances that all 3 of the deposits happen to outcrop in the 3% of outcrop that exists is pretty slim. There's a great chance that there's a significant gold discovery yet to be made under the cover, and that's what Matador plans to do.